Welcome to the Business Boys Talkin' Business Virtual Power Lunch. Please welcome your hosts, Tyler Price and Brian Magleby.
Yeah,
hey,
baby.
How are ya?
Welcome back to
That's
Talkin'
right.
Business.
It's always a good time here, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm Brian Magleby with the Idaho Innovation Center.
And I'm Tyler Price with the Small Business Development Center.
I'm going to skirt a little bit over here so I can be a little
All
bit
right.
seen. So welcome to Talkin' Business. Wow, what a show we have today. This is a guy that I've been wanting to have on this show since January 1st. Absolutely one of the best CEOs and leaders in the area. Heard him speak a couple years ago at RiseCon. We got a special thing. We're going to talk about that. We'll be ending the show with that speech. It was absolutely so powerful and impactful that I've watched it multiple times. We're actually going to show it at the end of the show. Michael Hughes from Elevation Labs. So,
yeah, kind of a big deal in the area. Kind of a sleeper company. Not everybody knows they even exist, but they are a major employer doing cool things, and we'll talk about culture and everything that Michael's helped establish. So last week we had Carrie Reagan.
Wow.
She's great.
Super entrepreneur.
And she did a great job. But let's, in addition to thanking Carrie for being on the show last week, how about our sponsors?
Oh, yeah. We can't do it without BBSI. Absolutely, the great job. In fact, I just ran into them out there at the Chamber Luncheon. Many of them are out there. BBSI, absolutely a great human resources company. So you can't go wrong if you need staffing. I know that Elevation uses them, and BBSI is quite a great company here in the area.
Yeah, and SBDC, Small Business Development Center, Dave Nowak, the leader of Region 6, is really stepping up and supporting what we're doing. Volpine Marketing, how about Ryan Jose?
Yep, they great job keeping our website and a lot of other people's websites. He's actually in Vegas today doing some video shooting. Absolutely a great guy, Brian at Volpine Marketing. Andex, wow, they just treat us like we're kings and queens here around this here. What a
Me like a
production
queen
facility.
And you like a king, right?
Yeah, that would be it. I'm glad you said that, and not me. So, and of course, the Idaho Innovation Center. We appreciate them, the sponsorship in the Talkin' Business. So, we are glad we have. Let's just quickly talk about next week's show.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm not sure we're going to be ready for this. Christine Garner, who we had on here a few weeks ago, she's kind of talked us into doing this segment at the end of the show. So next week we have a great guest. We've got the executive director of the development workshop,
which is doing cool things in our area too.
Yep. And just talked to them out in the hall as well. And they are going to be on the show. But it's at the end of the show. You've got to be watching this. We got a segment that we're calling what?
I don't know what.
Taste what?
There we go. Taste what? I forgot.
Taste
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So we're going to be, Christine's going to be here, and she wants to lead this segment. And let's set it up with this, that Tyler and I will be blindfolded and eating something. I'm not sure what she's going to put down us.
Well, we will find out.
We will, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So tune in for the end of the show. That will be our training. I'm not sure how that's going to be training. Besides,
know what
I'm
not
sure
to
putting
eat or
some
what
kind
to
of
eat.
nasty food down us, and we have to guess to each other what that food is.
There we go.
We'll have a lot of fun with that at the end of next week's show. So let's get right into this. We've got a couple videos here that kind of that Michael Hughes has done actually with the Chamber, and we're going to show just a few segments of that to kind of kick off, and they do a great summary of what Elevation Labs does here in the area. In the first video, it was actually recorded when they were Northwest Cosmetics Lab, and so we'll talk about that, but then the second one will be with their new name. And so let's watch just a couple minutes of video segments here that will help us introduce Michael Hughes from Elevation Labs.
First off, Michael, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and how your journey brought you here to Idaho Falls Northwest Labs.
Sure. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Appreciate the invite, and very excited to get involved in the Chamber of Commerce and with the community in general. So, hopefully people can tell a little bit from my accent. I'm from a different country. And it's not England, it's Ireland, so that's an important distinction. I was born and raised in Ireland. Started off with Procter & Gamble in Ireland, making skincare and cosmetics for brands like Olay and CoverGirl, Max Factor, and moved to the US about 14 years ago with Procter & Gamble and worked in several different locations around the country with P&G, including in headquarters. And my last couple of jobs, I ran a couple of plants, one in Boston and most recently in Iowa City, Iowa. I ran a $2 billion facility there and a distribution center along with that. Towards the back end of that assignment, I got a phone call from a recruiter looking to see if I'd be interested in coming out to work in the cosmetics company again and to work in Idaho Falls. And if I'm perfectly honest about it, you get these calls relatively frequently, and it's, do you take them seriously or not? The company seemed intriguing, the role seemed intriguing. The fact that I'd never been to Idaho before, I've been to 45 other states in the US in my years that I've been here, but here was a chance to come out here and have a look and see. And when I came out, I like to do a bit of photography. I looked at photographic opportunities in the area, and there's lots of them, right? A lot of beautiful country around here. So I came out, took some photographs, and did the interview. I wasn't taking it overly seriously, but when I saw the facility and I met some of the people in Northwest Cosmetics Lab, I was blown away. Super helpful, super engaged. People that really kind of wanted to work with you, wanted to learn. And so one thing led to the other, and we moved out here with my family who were here in the audience. We moved out here about 7 months ago.
Perfect. On behalf of the Greater Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce and the 400 people that are working for you, we're glad you're here. We're glad your journey. Good afternoon, everybody. Chip Schwarzy with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm practicing safe social reactions here with Michael Hughes, the CEO of Elevation Labs here in Idaho Falls. We're trying to introduce some businesses to the community and find out more about them. Michael, tell us about Elevation Labs, who you are and what you do.
Yes, Elevation Labs, we were formerly called Northwest Cosmetic Labs. We now have 3 divisions. Here's our headquarters in Idaho Falls, also a division in Colorado and in Los Angeles. We have about 400 employees here in Idaho Falls and have been growing steadily for a number of years. We produce high-end cosmetics, liquid color products, makeup, skincare. We specialize in skincare here. We do hair care products. We produce for about 200 different customers. If you go into a Sephora or an Ulta and walk around, almost on every single shelf, we're producing one of those products. The products actually get invented here with our R&D lab. We have about 20 people in our R&D lab here, and we have labs in the other 2 divisions as well. And a lot of these products have won a lot of beauty care awards for our customers, but they were actually invented here in Idaho Falls, and we then produce them for those customers on a going basis.
Well, quite the introduction there. That kind of does that takes a lot of our questions.
Yeah,
so.
Well, and he was saying how much he liked watching himself on video too. So I think everybody. So then, growing up in Ireland, you're in grade school, and your teachers maybe like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And you're like, "I want to sell beauty professional products." Is that, or how did this journey of you getting into the beauty space even happen?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly how it played out. I liked mathematics and making things, and I was big into Formula One racing growing up. I still really like that. So to get involved in that business, engineering seemed like the path to go. So I studied mechanical engineering in UCD in Dublin with the hope to get into that kind of field. I did an internship one of my summers with Procter & Gamble in Ireland, where we did make Olay and CoverGirl and those types of products. And I just loved the work, not necessarily the products necessarily. I was more into working with people, the combination of people and machinery. And in engineering school, you're thinking it's all about getting the equipment perfect and designed right and all that. And you learn, the more you're in this industry, that it's much more about how the people interact with the equipment and what they can do with that. And so that kind of hooked me. And they offered me a full-time job. And so I said I'd do that for a couple of years. And 21 years later, I'm still in this industry. So.
Wow. And they brought you to the United States?
Yes. Yeah, I transferred in 2003 into a factory where I made conditioners and shampoos in Iowa City. I pushed hard to move to the US. I'd done a couple of summers over here, one in Washington, D.C. and one in Boston. And I was young and single at the time, and I thought, let's do some international working while that was still the case. And and about 2 months later met a woman who became my wife, and we had a couple of kids over here, and we're here full time. So
that's good. That worked out.
Worked
and
out
she's from the States then?
Yeah, she's from South Dakota.
Yeah. Wow. So then you were, in what year were you brought on by at the time Northwest Cosmetics?
In almost 4 years exactly, right? 2017, August 2017. I transferred here to Idaho. So.
And then what was their, because they've been around for a minute, and so what, was it just that they were looking for someone to take it in a different direction, or why did they even seek you out and then?
Recruited, you were recruited.
Yeah, I was recruited to be the chief operating officer initially. So the company had been growing, founded in '95. So, and had just done amazing things in the industry. Out of a town of Idaho Falls, not renowned for beauty care, but from the founder chemist and the investor with Gary Voigt, they just did. They grew and grew, and then had some other investors come in 2014 and saw some more expansion. And with the expansion, looking to buy other companies to merge in with us. They wanted somebody that had maybe worked in a larger organization from an operations standpoint. So that was the initial plan. I'd hoped someday I might get to be a CEO. So this was a stepping stone for me. And about 3 months later, that happened, and probably a bit faster than I anticipated. But,
Watch out what you wish for, right?
You take it when it comes, but and it's been great.
Wow. So talk to us about the growth. You've acquired some other companies, and talk about what your operations is here and how many employees you have, and kind of tell us where you've evolved in the 4 years that you've been here with Elevation. And then after that, I want to have you talk about the name change.
Sure. So we in Idaho Falls today we have almost 450 full-time employees, and maybe about 150 temp employees any given day, all of whom have the opportunity to become full-time employees with us as well, and that's grown steadily, particularly in the last year and a half. Right before I joined the company, we acquired a company in Los Angeles, Dream Team Beauty. And worked together for a few years. We actually sold that business last year, right at the start of COVID. Color cosmetics was struggling a little bit as an industry, as people were wearing masks and not going to the office. But we took some of that business up to Idaho, which helped us grow here. And there was another company that was very into powder manufacturing, powder cosmetics, which wasn't our forte, that we sold the rest of that business to. And 75% of those employees got to keep working there. So that was a challenging time, but the right thing to do for us altogether. In 2018, in July 2018, just 3 years now, we acquired what was Colorado Quality Products at the time. One of our competitors, and very specialized in the natural and clean beauty, organic beauty even. They're pretty famous for that.
Wow.
And a great cultural fit for us as I went and visited. We were actually sending business back and forth to each other, and I met with their leadership, and they were thinking about selling, and we're like, hey, before you put yourself in the market, let's have a conversation. And 2 months later, we were partners.
Wow.
And right around then is the time we changed our name, and I did that very consciously. We'd had some cultural issues between the Idaho and the Los Angeles division, an LA company being bought by Idaho, and some of the commentary around, oh, we own you, so you have to do it this way, or we bought you. So it's just not the kind of culture I wanted to propagate. So as we did the Colorado acquisition, right, we talked about it being partnerships and this concept of sister companies and learning from each other. And to kind of smooth out the who started who bought who, we said we're all going to be called Elevation Labs. We had a naming kind of competition internally and voting thing and whatnot. And we're at different elevations and whatever else, and the concept of elevating our customers' performance and so on. So yeah, we put that name out there. Some people our suppliers still sometimes revert back to our old name, but culturally, it drove a lot of good behaviors. For example, we have this concept in our company called the Robin Hood Award. It's one of the bigger awards we give out to our employees, and it's for whoever steals shamelessly from the other division and takes their idea and runs with it. So the concept of kind of check your ego at the door. If there's a better way of doing it, just take it and go with it versus everybody reinventing the wheel. Yeah. That's super important for our customers, because our customers want to have the same experience no matter which division they're working with. Hey, you get your products produced in Denver or in Idaho, you're still going to get the same service, the same pricing, the same reporting, all that kind of stuff. So that's an example of the logic behind having one name over our entire company. As we go forward and make more acquisitions, we'll continue that practice.
So then you kind of touched on a word a couple times there as you were talking, which was culture. So how do you establish the culture? Because you mentioned, you had this LA-based company and these rednecks from Idaho bought them, and maybe that was part of a friction point. And then maybe there was some, hey, we own you, and I'm just kind of in the comments that you said, but how do you, because our employees are our biggest asset, right. They truly are. And so to keep them happy, what is the cultural things that you've brought to the table or that you really want to, because you mentioned the Robin Hood thing, but what is Elevation, what do you want the culture to be there?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'd start by saying that the culture at Northwest and Colorado and LA, it's slightly different in LA, it's a different environment in general.
It's a whole different country, California.
Almost, it's almost a different planet in some ways. But there's a lot of good things going on, right? So you got to be careful that if it's not broke, don't fix it, and recognize and appreciate what you start with. And then you slowly but surely try and steer it towards maybe some better aspects, like let's not everybody invent their own thing, let's take the best practice and go fast. That's an example of a small culture shift. You still have the same people, you still want to generate new ideas, but you want them to move back and forth pretty fast. The culture we've established and grown and I think enhanced in the last 4 years is very much based on our values. We have five values that we've established. It starts with integrity and everyone be able to trust each other in this culture of trust, because if you don't have that in our world at the pace we run at, you will slow yourself down, you'll double check each other's work, and you will not perform to what our customers expect us to and getting good quality product out as quickly as possible. If we make a mistake, we expect people to acknowledge that and admit that. I'll give you an example along this line. So we introduced a concept called failing forward. So in our R&D lab, we have about 30 people across R&D and across both divisions, and they're inventing new products every week. We're launching 5 to 20 new products on a weekly basis, right? And you can imagine over those hundreds of products, things go wrong sometimes. Mostly they go perfectly well. But the odd time we'll put the wrong preservative in the wrong product, and we'll get all the way through stability, customers ready to launch, and it will fail, and we'll have to say we've got to push it back by 12 more weeks, right? And that's a failure, a disappointment. But instead of kind of hiding that, which historically people are kind of ashamed of making mistakes and they don't want anybody to know about it, we've gotten to a place now where we make a poster about that, and it goes up on the wall on the failing forward wall. And all the R&D teams from both divisions share that failure, and you're expected to kind of speak it loud and proud so that everybody learns. Because, fool me once or shame on me, that kind of concept. And our level of errors and the success rate of our projects has gone in the right direction because of that. So that's an example of taking that integrity value that we have and turning it into part of our culture through a system or a tool that kind of operationalizes it.
Wow. So tell us about some of the other pillars you have there. Can you get all 5 of them? This will put you a little bit on the spot here.
Not on the spot.
You can just tell us, what are some of your other pillars that you have?
The one we're working on right now is work and win together, right? So we are a team. There's multiple divisions within our division. You've got your R&D team, you've got operations, you've got a warehouse team, and it's a high pressure environment, right? A customer of ours will have committed to Sephora, we're going to have your product on shelf on August 1st. And if they don't get it on shelf, they're getting penalized. That comes back to us. So, and they're giving us the bare minimum amount of time to get that launch to beat their competitors out to market, right? So we're inventing the product, they're testing it, they might want to redirect it. So all that goes along. So at the last minute, everything has to go right. And, things don't always go right. So we do have situations where there's something in the warehouse and it goes missing, and with the pressure in the system, it can quickly turn into finger pointing and blaming, and that just does nobody any good at all.
Never does.
This value of work and win together is not about who messed up here, guys. It's what do we need to do to get this corrected as a team, and we have people. Our account managers out on the floor making cartons at the last minute to get into these kits for holiday programs that are going out the door. And there's a lot. I could give you 20 examples of just amazing Teamwork, real teamwork, and this concept of winning. It's not just work together as a team. It's not just teamwork. It's we're going to win together. And we highlight the wins every single month in our site communication. We have MVP winners every month, highlighting the values that they're demonstrating. Everybody sees that. It goes out on our Facebook page, etc. So we really try and celebrate all the successes we've had, and we've had a lot of successes. I'm a big believer when we have a win that the employees need to share in that win, and that the community actually shares in the win. So every time we have a winning quarter, we do something extra for the community, as an example. That gets our employees pretty fired up.
Wow.
That's a cultural thing. So I'll give you an example. Last year, the orders, as kind of COVID happened, slowed down a little bit, and then everybody realized, wow, things are selling fast online. Let's get more orders in. So the pressure kind of mounted up, and we said every week that we hit our target in either division, we're going to donate a mountain bike to a kid that wouldn't otherwise get that by Christmas time. And we partnered up with the YMCA here in Idaho and another community organization in Colorado. And we donated, I think, maybe 15 to 17 bikes in the end.
That's awesome.
But so every week we won as a company, somebody in our community was winning. So that's an example. And we also had, of course, employee kind of awards and kind of incentives.
And you did some when was needed for hand sanitizer. I was needing some for the Innovation Center, and I came out and got some. And you opened that up to not just selling to the rest of the world, but you opened it up to where we could come out and buy from you.
Yes.
So that was great. And I got to say, I know an employee that works out there, and she talks all the time about the energy and the positiveness that is out there. Her name's Karen Barnes, and she's in the sales, and she just loves the positive energy that's out there. That's she can't talk enough about it. It's just every day she looks forward to going to work, and that's something that you've raised there. So.
Well, a lot of people do. Karen's a fantastic employee, teammate, driver. I mean, she brings, a lot of people bring up, and we want to encourage people. It's not about, I'm not involved certainly in every meeting, every interaction, every decision. So how do we get people empowered? And Karen, as an account manager, is very much empowered to make decisions to support her customers. We have this, our mission is to deliver phenomenal customer experiences every day. And our account manager is a single point of contact that serves that customer. And I'll tell you, our customers, when we do our feedback surveys, will tell us that we're in a totally different class to all of our competition and how we do that. But she gets to represent them in our daily meetings and our morning meetings and say, hey guys, we need to bring this order forward. The customer's gone out of stock. What can we do? And she'll fight for a customer. And that's the customers recognize that. Our employees recognize that. And that's how we've been winning and growing.
So when you talk about weekly, there is a lot going on every week. And it does take a special employee to handle that fast-paced, almost stress. I worked at Gateway Computers back in the day when there was a Gateway Computers, and Ted Waite was phenomenal. But we knew every week that computer was going to change 3 times. And there were people that couldn't handle that. They were like, can't we just keep this one model? It's like, no. So when you're looking for people, then what are you looking for in them that kind of shows that, hey, they can handle the fast-pacedness of us? Because there's other labs that aren't, right?
Right. I think there are certain roles in our company that I would argue are pretty, you come in and you do your job and it's laid out for you and you go execute and execute and execute, right? The more upstream you work with customers that are changing their minds on the development side of things, in the account management space, all of that, you absolutely need to be a very dynamic, fast thinker, quick decision maker, able to, and courageous enough to escalate issues and really think on your feet. So we look for those employees and we find them outside of our company and bring them in, but also we have a big push to promote from within. So we have a target to promote 75% of all open positions from within our company, right?
Yeah.
And we've been hitting that goal, and I could tell you 20 stories of people that had started in a warehouse and shown some interest in finance and started working in our collection team and then gone from there into R&D, and we have an R&D assistant that's now doing our pricing and finance and doing his college outside, at nighttime and so on. We're helping support some of that in our company as well with some scholarship programs. So we really encourage people to build abroad. So if we see that talent and that dynamism, even for somebody that starts off on a packing line, we will try and really maximize their potential
Yeah.
internally. And I think that's a reason a lot of people come and join us, is that ability to grow and learn in their career and be supported in doing that.
Yeah.
So 450 employees here in Eastern Idaho.
Yeah.
And tell us about what's the future of Elevation Labs? What else are you looking to do? What else is kind of ahead of the? Don't give away any of the secrets that you're looking at. But
we're pretty transparent.
Talk about what you're, what are some things that are coming ahead?
Yeah, we're growing this year in Idaho in revenue by about 25 to 30% here, and even a little bit more in Denver. Actually, we've got more capacity there. I think next year we're working through a growth of somewhere in the 20% range.
Wow.
So we're going to keep growing. We're running 7 days a week. We've designed shift patterns that really work for our employees, where they get 3 or 4 days off a week and 12-hour shifts, so that we can kind of fill in the hours and really meet this growth plan. So I see that growth continuing. I think 10% would be more comfortable. 20% is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, when you said 20, I'm like going, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so for most companies, 10% is a
yeah, because every 5 years
yeah,
you're doubled your company, right?
Right.
Or,
20
or
more than
less.
that compounded. Yeah. It's but where we are in our reputation in the industry, we are literally turning down more business than we can handle. So I see steady growth here in Idaho. We are keeping Idaho as our headquarters. We have plans to do more acquisitions between now and 2028, and to have locations probably back in California, out on the East Coast, and somewhere in the Midwest, Texas area as well. Our customers like us to be physically close. They like to be able to drop in. They want to see the first run of their products. So geography does matter a little bit in that case. And that's our plan to grow. I'd love this to become $1 billion company by 2028. That's my personal goal.
Wow.
And that's done through acquisition and continuing to grow.
Acquisition and organic growth both, yeah.
That's pretty.
Well,
that's
from
pretty
a
amazing.
company that Gary Voigt, helped fund, the starting of it here in Eastern Idaho, and to see this kind of growth is just absolutely great.
Well, and I'll just say we own a trade school where we're in the beauty space. So if you need any makeup R&D, I know a bunch of kids that want to get their hands on it. So.
That's great. And we are talking about, we have brought in some more students even during the summer months to help out in different areas. And we are talking about getting more internships for our chemists. Some of our best chemists came through intern programs over the year. I will tell you, having worked in Ireland and about 4 or 5 cities across America, the people here in Idaho are just fantastic. The level of ownership, the level of commitment to the business is, having worked in Procter & Gamble, a great company, and great kind of incentives to long-term employment and all that stuff. I thought that was unique to them. I come out to Idaho and it's at an even better level.
Is it well?
Yeah,
it's spectacular and great to work alongside.
That's pretty phenomenal. So you kind of mentioned that, some of your clients got impacted harshly during COVID. And then you mentioned that the online space took off and that helped you. But there's a big player in Ulta that they were down over 50% in revenue. Did they just not have an online presence or strong enough presence to make up? Because we're not talking a little bit of money. We're talking $6 billion plus that they lost during COVID, which maybe that trickled down to you guys as well. But is that just big companies just don't have the ability to make that shift, or I don't know what's kind of your thought there?
I think, Ulta is a conglomeration of all the brands selling through their brick and mortar stores, and I would guess Ulta was 90% in-store purchase pre-COVID. I'm sure that's increased since, but how quickly they can flip somebody over. The other challenge their online sales have is most of those brands will have their own website to sell directly, right?
That's true, huh?
And consumers will go there to learn about the products and how to use them and order directly. So the uptick in business we saw was primarily from our customers selling directly online versus via Ulta or Sephora online. Those things have bounced upwards as well, and now the stores are opening again. So overall, beauty care as an industry is the number 1 or number 2 most resilient industry in recession times. Women particularly will treat themselves to a beauty care product. And we saw, one of our theories here is, with everybody on Zoom calls and all those blemishes showing up on the screen and magnified, skincare has just exploded, right? More so than color cosmetics. And especially in the space that we play in, which is really on the clean side of things, natural or even organic side of things, people are really more and more conscious of that, more concerned about the impact on the planet, where these ingredients come from. So we have been and continue to be positioned in a great space to be able to support these brands that are exploding.
That's fantastic.
Well, you talked about in the questions we asked you some of the lessons you learned from COVID, and let me just say here: you stay flexible, think outside the box, value of in-person time, and communication is key. So those were some definite things that you had to learn during the COVID times.
Yes, yeah, and flexibility. We pivoted to hand sanitizer quickly. We made some locally and donated some to the hospitals and the sheriff's office, and people could not get it in the stores. So we try to be a good community player there, and then we look to sell it. And we do follow the rules. It is FDA regulated. There's some other outfits out there that kind of just threw things out that were a little bit less than maybe less than ideal. And I think that wave hit us and then moved away. So we pivoted there, and honestly, in hindsight, it wasn't a big part of our business. So I think that flexibility, where people are afraid or have fear in the community in general about their jobs, about when they can come to work, how they're going to be safe at work, we really went on overdrive on communication. We used video footage so everyone, no matter where they were, could kind of see what was going on and hear it directly from the horse's mouth as to, here's how we're going to keep you safe, here's the rules. And we were in masks very early on, and we're very strict about that to try and keep our employees safe. We did not shut down for a single day, which obviously helped our customers. And in a lot of other states where slightly less friendly towards that concept, it gave us a competitive edge as well.
Yeah, very cool.
One of the things that you mentioned in here, and because we do have a lot of newer entrepreneurs that watch our show, and we asked for what are some of your ideas for new business, for new businesses to do, and he said test and iterate often, be wide open to feedback, think big, aim big, but prepare for small. And absolutely, that's some great advice for the new entrepreneurs out there. So great. Well, Michael, it's been great to have you here on our show. I could literally sit here and talk hours.
Just because I'm in the beauty space. I mean, my wife, when she was here,
this is a show that we try to keep to 30, 35 minutes, but with Michael, we could stay a lot longer. Is there anything else that you could catch us up with or tell us about Elevation Labs that we haven't maybe touched on?
I think we touched on a lot of it. I think we are growing. It is a competitive marketplace. We've actually decided as a company we're going to be a minimum wage of $15 an hour from January 1st onwards. The average being more in the $19 an hour range, and for shift work there's premiums on top of that. So I'd encourage people just to check us out. I think the environment, it's clean, it smells great, it's air conditioned, and people and the teamwork that we talked about. I think we've got a lot to offer in this community. A lot of people don't know about us, haven't heard about us. We're kind of tucked away in the corner here in Idaho Falls, but it's I'd encourage
beautiful
you to
buildings.
check us out.
We got one in the background here that is there. That's one of your buildings out off Technology Drive out there, and absolutely you've got some great buildings, great employees, great conditions. Man, the excitement to take this company and go in the direction that you're going, I gotta say, is absolutely phenomenal. So kudos to you and the team that you've put together there at Elevation Labs. Talk to us about this quote that you have.
So I think I read a lot of books, a lot of leadership books. This one has always kind of stuck with me. I think it's all about your attitude that you bring to whatever challenge comes your way. And I've seen it at an individual level, I've seen it at a team level, I've seen it at a company level, where if you go in with the right attitude and think, we're going to make this happen, you will find ways to make things happen. If you go in already defeated or seeing the challenges in that challenge, pointing out why it's impossible, it will not happen. So I think for me, this speaks to the attitude you want to take to a new job, to a new opportunity, or even a bad problem like COVID. It's like, right, we could lie down and be defeated and shut down and have all the excuses in the world to do that. Or we can say, this is a challenge. How are we going to become better because of this challenge? And I think COVID is a great example where I think this company has come out stronger than we were going in.
Yeah. I have a friend that puts this on his voicemail that if you say it can or can't be done, you will be right, and it's absolutely great. So thank you for being here. Now we at the end of every show we do a little training that we like to make sure that every business gets a good takeaway. And I've asked Michael to stay on with us and help us through this, and I came up with a lot of these items on leadership. So I'll tease it once again. At the end of the show, we're going to show Michael speaking at a convention that he was a keynote speaker at here in the area a couple of years ago. This speech that he gave absolutely just knocked my socks off. It's one that I will forever remember. It was that good of a presentation. I walked away totally wowed. So we're going to actually show that at the end of the show. It's 33 minutes, and I encourage everybody to watch that if you happen to have missed it there to do that. But we're going to talk about leadership, and I've asked him to kind of talk about. He mentioned earlier in here about the integrity, and that has to be number one. Why is that? Why do you say that has to be number one?
I think if your organization hasn't got confidence in your trustability, your honesty, forget about everything else. It doesn't matter how amazing you are or whatever it is else that
Something's
you can do.
Something's going to go wrong if you don't have
people.
that.
A leader doesn't ultimately do anything. It's all their people that do the work. And if they can't go behind you, if they aren't willing to run through a wall for you, you're not going to do amazing things. And they will never do that if they do not trust you. So if you don't have the integrity, the rest is for naught.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, sincere enthusiasm, I love that. I like going into the farmer's market. When you go in there and there is a unique product or service that's being offered, the founder of that they eat, breathe, they love what they do, right? And I think that striving to be the best in the world at whatever, and that comes from one of those books that now I'm spacing, but anyway, because I'm old, I forget. Good to great, thank you. But I see that sometimes bigger companies start losing the enthusiasm, so it's good that it'll be interesting to see you at 1 billion maintaining all the things that you're talking about, which I think that just listening to you, I think you're the person to do that. So
yeah, it's a great key that if you're going to be a leader in a company, you've got to have that enthusiasm and communication. Michael's talked about that. You know, some things that require communication. Some can be done through an email. Some require team participation and having meetings and raw sessions and things like that. But being a good leader and communicating things throughout your company is also a really good one.
Yeah, confidence, I think just knowing who you are and what you stand for. I mean, kid from Ireland was able to come, and so Ireland, Iowa, Idaho, some other
and a few
things.
other states in between.
But those have been key places for you. But that confidence in who you are and what you stand for, you could be in any vertical, right? But you choose the one that you're in because this is the space you want to be in, right?
Yeah, and I also think confidence in working through COVID, confidence in taking on and if the leader comes across shaky in that space, again, people won't go all in with you because are you really going if you don't even look like you're confident we're going to do it, I'm sure as heck not throwing my energy behind it. So I think it's critical.
Yeah, and of course motivation. It's if you've been in a leadership position, this is the key of keeping your staff happy, and the goal is to have that. Just like Karen Barnes, she looks forward to going to work every single day, and that's absolutely a great thing to have that kind of motivation within your employees that they want to not only make themselves better, but make the company better. So.
And decisiveness, I think that speaks to a lot of the things the confidence is that you do have a vision, you are working towards something. It's not, you did make a pivot in hand sanitizer. I don't think that's not, you were looking to serve in that case. It wasn't like you were a business saying, hey, we could quickly make money here, because at the end of the day, hand sanitizer did not increase the bottom line significantly then. Right. But the community needed it, right? So anyway.
And you could produce that. So I'm going to, this last one, I asked for some feedback from Michael, and he gave us these last two that I put on here, a simplifier. And I had the word, I think, delegate, had to be able to delegate, but you put simplifier, and man, that just hit me last night, that is a way better word. Talk to us about how you are a simplifier.
Well, we have a lot of, I could talk forever about it.
I know you
our airplane model is probably mentioned in the upcoming video, but I think our job as leaders, as servant leaders, is to really make the days of our employees more doable, right? So how are you making the jobs that your people that work for you more easy to do it right? How do you take work off their plate that isn't really adding value? I think if you are that type of leader, your employee will recognize that and will run through that wall for you. So I think it's a big part of leadership job that is probably one of the most neglected part of leadership job. It's easy to pile on more and more work. It's hard to stop and pause and think, what is not necessary. I know I like that report, but I'm not really using it that much. Can I just kill it and save that person 15 minutes a day?
Yeah.
That's servant leadership for me.
Yeah, love that. And then the last, and certainly not least, but being a problem solver. That's one of the key things to be in a leadership type position, is that you have to be able to take and analyze the situation of what's going on and how could we make this better, and who can make it better, and things like that.
Yeah, and the who part I think is critical, right? The leader can't solve every single problem, so giving the confidence to your employee to own that and making sure you've put the right person on the right task that's going to lead to success.
Exactly. Very good. Well, I hope that you'll take these 8 leadership traits and implement them into your business. Michael, we appreciate you being here. What a great leader and what great company you are here in Eastern Idaho, and we wish you only the best as you continue the growth and success of Elevation Labs. So I highly encourage, we're going to now pivot right into Michael's presentation that he did, I think it was 2018 at the RiseCon meeting here in Eastern Idaho. And I can't tell you, I've watched this many of times. When I need to be lifted up and inspired, he's got some great stories, like he talked about the airplane model there. And I encourage you to watch this video. And let's just talk about next week before we do. Michaela Matlock with the Development Workshop.
Doing
She's
great
the executive
things.
director
Yep.
there.
Great things in the helping people that need to be employed and just producing great products.
Yep.
So.
And then we got the segment that I know that people are going to be tuning in just for that. Taste.
What? There you go.
So, all right. We look forward to that next week. And here's Michael Hughes at RiseCon 2000. I think it was 18.
Please help me welcome Mr. Michael Hughes.
Good evening, folks. The people of Idaho are nice people, right? They're good people. They're willing to help out. They've got great ownership in their company, right? In their own profession, great pride in their work, and a lot of untapped energy, right? So I thought if I brought along an action plan, a culture action plan to this organization with this raw material and this heart, could we make this bigger? Could we make this organization bigger? Could we get it firing on all cylinders? So tonight I'm going to talk about a little bit of my experience and some of the cultural learning I've had, and then about 8 different concepts that I've developed or used or leveraged over the last few years to put together into a cultural action plan. I think one of the things that we drop first as leaders is the culture action plan. We'll make our revenue action plan, we'll make our profitability action plan. We'll talk about culture at the start of the year. When you get halfway through the year, right, and you realize you kind of haven't really done anything, and then you get to the end of the year and you create another culture action plan, maybe, right, but we don't have the discipline to follow through on it. So I'm going to share some ideas, and hopefully on your napkin, some of the best action plans in the world are developed on a napkin over a meal or over a drink. You can capture 1 or 2 of these bullet points that might be helpful to you to reapply in your organization. So I'm going to share 8 different tidbits, and hopefully there's 1 or 2 of these that are valuable to you, and I'll tell a little story behind each of these things. So first one is this airplane model concept. So I developed this concept when I was in Boston. I went out there, and if you can imagine, Gillette had a lot of systems and processes and whatnot, and then P&G came in and took it over. And what did leadership do? It rolled out all its systems and processes on top of it, right? When I was sent out there, I was told by my boss, you got to get this organization in control. They're skipping safety checks. People must be lazy. People don't care about the rules, aren't doing their quality tests, etc. We have all these problems going on, right? And I started off in a place where, well, let's really try and understand, are people really trying to be this bad, right? I spent time on the floor, followed people around, and worked out pretty quickly that if they were to do everything they were asked to do, it would take them 16 hours of their 8-hour day to get all that done. So what do people do when they've got 20 things to do and they got capacity for 10 things? What do? They make choices, right? They do 10 things. They pick the 10 things quite often, right? Because some boss somewhere is telling them to do something, right? And they fail. They might miss a critical safety check. They might miss a critical production step or whatever else, right? So I went in and realized that this is not the people's fault, right? There's a big problem here. At the same time, I watched a documentary about the designing of the next 737 in Boeing. And one of the things that kind of struck me was there's a design rule for designing the next version of an airplane. Right? And if you're a designer of that, the rule is if you want to add a component, a piece of technology, a gadget, a sensor, whatever it is, into that new airplane, and designers always want to add new things to the airplane, the rule is you have to take away something of equal or greater weight before you add that new thing in. Right? Does that make sense if you're designing an airplane? Right? If you didn't have that rule, the airplane gets overloaded, becomes inefficient, right? Can crash and burn. So after seeing this documentary and seeing what's happened to our people, I put two and two together and came up with this airplane model. Right? And I made a rule. I got all 200 people in a room together, and I said, we're going to implement the airplane model rule. And the airplane model rule is, you cannot, as a leader, the leader cannot roll out anything new to the employees on the floor that are doing the work, that are adding the value to our product, without taking something of equal or greater time or effort away from that person first. Right? Total shock and silence from both parties in this room. Right? We had the opposite of servant leadership culture in this plant originally. Right? People did what their bosses told them to do, or they tried to do as much of it as they could physically possibly do. And bosses, the leaders, the managers, behaved like everyone was there to work for them. It was the opposite of what it should have been. Right? When we introduced this rule, the rule became, hey, you've got to go spend time on the floor with the people and work out what are their hassles in life, what are their barriers. Our job as leaders is to break down barriers, is to serve these people, right? And it took a total U-turn. We had all the leaders wearing the same uniforms. We got rid of special parking spaces. We got rid of a whole wing of an office that they had for me and to sit in a regular place, right? Because we were there to help them and serve them and go out there. If they needed help cleaning the line, we needed to do that. I spent time shadowing this guy on the floor. He was testing the height of the stems of the aerosol cans, 24 cans every 20 minutes. He'd go over, take him about 5 to 10 minutes to test them, right? So about a third to half of his day he's testing these things. And after 3 hours and lots of these tests, not one of them had failed. I said, how many failed yesterday? None. How many failed last week? Oh, none. I said, have you ever had any fail? None have ever failed. Do you know anybody that's had any that ever failed? I've never heard of it before. I said, why are you doing it? You guys told us to do it. I said, who's you guys? Who told you to do this thing? Well, it took me 2 days to find out who you guys was. And it was a guy in R&D back in Cincinnati in headquarters, of course. So I called him up. I said, hey, why are we testing 24 cans every 20 minutes in our factory? He says, you guys are still doing that? I said, I was out there 3 years ago doing this experiment, and we wanted to make sure that the machine was set up right. You literally cannot make it wrong after it's set up right. There's so many sensors and testing. And we killed that thing the next day, and a person on every shift, on every line, got a third of their day back, right? And it's that approach of finding areas. How can we simplify people's lives down, right? And when you tell a manager that you have to do that, right? We had airplane models in the factory. We had pictures up, we had the rule, and people could come to me as the plant manager and tell me if anybody violated the airplane rule, right? If you were doing that as a manager, we had a serious sit-down conversation, right? What have you done? So people's work plans and action plans for the year became the first half, I've got to take work away, and the second half, well, half the stuff we were going to do in the second half didn't need to be done because I simplified the work so much and it was already getting done because now they had time to go do it. Right? So it's just an important concept. It drove a huge cultural shift in that organization, a real flip-flop of the triangle, the leadership triangle, and much more servant leadership. The next concept is this concept about everyone wants to be great, right? As a leader, right, there's lots of leaders in this room, do you really believe that all of your employees come in every day wanting to be great? Not just good, not just average, not just get by, but that they want to be great? Right? Think about it. Do you really think that and feel that? Right? We'd all like to say yes to that. Sometimes our behaviors, especially when things go wrong, and things go wrong in the world, is who screwed this up? Right? Who messed up? Why is that person not doing this right? Right? We want to blame the employees pretty fast because we need somebody to kind of call out as the scapegoat of an issue. Versus if we really, really in our core, in our heart, if we're leading from the heart and we believe this person didn't come in this morning and try and screw up, right? What is wrong in our system that enabled them? Is the training right? Was the expectation clear, right? Has this person been given shown how to do this right the first time initially, right? The blue eye and the brown eye analogy comes from an experiment that was done in the 50s and 60s in Iowa. You guys probably heard about it, where a school teacher and a psychologist came into a classroom at the start of a year of, I think, 7-year-old kids, and they did this experiment called the blue eye, brown eye experiment. You can Google it and YouTube it, but basically what they said was they tested all the kids first of all for their IQ intelligence level, and of course they got a normal bell curve across the whole classroom. And then they announced to the kids that a new study's come out, and we've just realized that the most intelligent people in the world are brown-eyed kids, brown-eyed people, right? And the least intelligent people are the blue-eyed people. So if you got brown eyes, come up to the front of the class, you sit up here because you're going to pay attention, you're going to understand it anyway. And the blue-eyed kids, you guys can go to the back of the class, and if you pick up something, good for you, right? And they left it like that for 3 months. And then they tested again. So what did they find when they tested again? How did the brown-eyed kids do? Right? They did better. Way better than expected. The blue-eyed kids, even the top of the class, blue-eyed kid did worse than average. A less than average brown-eyed kid did far better than average, right? They expected the blue eyes to do a little bit worse. They didn't expect the big jump beyond intellectual reason. How are these brown-eyed kids doing so well, right? So this concept comes from that experiment, right? I truly believe if you start off at a point of believing that people want to be great, right? They want to learn more. They want to be challenged, right? How will you treat them? How will you interact with them, right? You can tell somebody and try and fake it, and they'll read it. They'll read into you not really believing them, right? They mightn't read it in the first moment. They'll read it the second moment when you try and micromanage them, right? You didn't really think I could do this leadership job because here you are all in my business, right? You got to really trust them. You got to give them enough rope to hang themselves. You got to give them enough rope to really trust that you do it. You got to have a conversation with them. We have a woman here in Idaho. She was a receiving clerk, taking in all the trucks of raw materials, packed materials that come in. Every time I interact with her in my first few months, I was like, this lady has energy, right? I talked about, we were looking for a leader for the warehouse. And people told me, no, she doesn't have a degree. She doesn't have this education. She's not great on computers. All these excuses. I'm like, everything I see, I think this person could be great. Right? I went and talked to her and asked her, do you want to be a supervisor position? I don't know if I could do that. And I said, I think you can do that. I believe you can do that. I'm going to help you do that. Right? She eventually took on the supervisor role. She's been promoted twice since then, right, into a pretty highly paid salary role, and she is rocking her world. Right? The results of the warehouse, getting stuff to our packing line on time this time last year was about 70% of the time it arrived before it was due. The last 3 months have been 99.6%, and it's all her. She is on a high, right? And it's just giving that person that credibility, that belief, and the confidence that you really trust them. It's starting off from a point of not blaming people for mistakes, and miracles can happen, things that I haven't expected to happen. Sometimes things that people themselves don't even believe in can happen after you do that. The next concept comes from a book called The Carrot Principle. If you haven't read it, it's a very simple, easy book. There it is up there by Adrian Gostick. A lot of people, when they make a culture action plan, they think reward and recognition. I got to reward my people, and they might or might not put a new reward program in place. In fact, a lot of people shy away from it because they're worried about offending somebody else. And right, I'll tell you, put anything in place, get something going and off the ground. Quite often when we get it off the ground, we do something like pizza lunches. Anybody do pizza lunches for their teams as a reward? Something like that? Or T-shirts or something, maybe not. Maybe it's just in factory environments. But after a couple of them, and they hit another record month, they expect another pizza lunch. If you forget one of them, now it's a disincentive and people have forgotten about it. What the Carrot Principle talks about is, ideally on an individual basis, you do a reward that's very personalized to that person, right? Find out something about them. They're into mechanics. Buy a subscription to a mechanic magazine for them, right? That is the rewards when they did a study that people remember. They don't remember the pizza lunches or the regular things or even cash that's given out as a bonus. They remember special things. I read that book while I was working in Boston, and we had a really tough spate of overtime that was required. So I decided we're going to put a cool, different kind of a spin on things. And instead of buying all 200 people a pizza lunch and spending a couple of grand doing that, I said we're going to do something different. Every day you work of overtime in the next 4 weeks, your name goes into a hat, right? And at the end of 4 weeks, there's only 10 people who are going to get a reward. We're going to pull 10 names out of the hat, right? And right at break time, when the cafeteria is full, we're going to have a stretch limo show up here. Most of these people have never been anywhere near a stretch limo. You're going to get a wave goodbye to your friends, get in the limo, go down to Fenway Park, have some fun, have a party, go out for a nice meal, right? Can you imagine how much talk happened about that in that 4 weeks? How much excitement? Who's going to win this ticket? And for a year later on, people are still talking about this unusual, different way of celebrating. The next concept is the 10-degree rule, right? This is about how we handle crisis, right? There's always going to be crisis in our world. There's nothing easy or else somebody else will be doing it. So there's problems going to come at us. How we behave as a leader, I believe, has a gigantic impact on how your team behave to that crisis, right? From everything from your body language to how you communicate it. I'll give an example. I was running a factory one Christmas, and we had a very light Christmas load, lighter than we've ever had. So we're telling everybody you get to take loads of days off over Christmas, myself included. It was going to be the lightest Christmas we've ever had. It's Friday morning. Christmas is the following Wednesday. And I get a phone call from my boss in Cincinnati. She's surrounded by red tape. She muffles through the red tape and says, we have a challenge on our hands. One of our factories is after really messing up on this product, this Old Spice hair care gel that we're about to launch, and they've no capacity to fix their own problem. We need your help, right? And your heart just sinks. You're like, are you serious, right? And we needed everybody in our factory to work all the way through the holiday weekend and through, besides Christmas Day, work every other day through the holiday to protect this launch on the 1st of January, right? Now, my initial instinct and reaction was to go on the -5 degrees, right? There's a very small window between doing the right thing and the wrong thing here as a leader. And I pulled my whole team together. I could have easily said, this is ridiculous. It's not our fault. We're the victims of this, right? But please sign up anyway. You know, these Cincinnati crazy people and whatever else, right? And throwing the company under the bus and whatnot, right? That's a very easy, natural thing to do. Instead, I stood in front of the team and said, we have a phenomenal opportunity here. We're trying to grow as a plant, right? Here's a crisis that everybody in the hair care world knows about, and we can step up and be the heroes here, right? We're trying to win more business, to do more manipulation type work, so we have a chance to go do that. We're going to do it and have fun. We're going to get music in here. We're going to get food in here. We're going to rock the place. And we had the whole team signing up, right? We had all the way till New Year's Eve. We got it all shipped out before Christmas Eve. We made a video of the event and put it up on the P&G YouTube site. I got thousands of hits, and people found out about us and actually sent us more business, more projects. Here's a team that works out. People were inventing machinery during that 3 days to work out how to get the equipment to go faster and to knock the thing out, right? So how you stand up at the start of that crisis, how you come across as a leader, your attitude will have a gigantic impact on the rest of the organization. I've done a lot of studies on millennials over the years, in China, in Mexico, in Europe. And the first thing I'll say on millennials is I think they get a really bad rap, right? They're far better than people of our generation and older lay them out. I usually start my millennial presentation with a quote about these folks are entitled, they think they deserve everything, they're not hardworking, they're lazy. And then I flip to who the quote's from, and it's from 1876, right? And basically, I think every generation thinks a couple of generations below them are useless and entitled and all those kind of things. You know, from the studies that I've done, there's a lot of things that are very similar from any generation. People want to do well. They're willing to work hard if you set them up for that, right? The one thing that is a little bit different with millennials is their expectation of access to leadership. They do not think they need to work through every level of leader to get to the head guy in an organization. They think they can walk right into your office and have a chat with you, right? And that's just normal. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but that's my experience of it so far. So to try and kind of help with this concept, I came up about 5 years ago, this concept, I call it open mic. And I meet with groups of 20 people at a time, at least once a quarter, sometimes more often than that people have access to sit with me and ask anything they want to ask. There's questions about the company, what we're doing in the community, about career development, about whatever rumors that they've heard. Sometimes we don't invite the group's boss so they can talk to me about what's working and not working in their organization, especially if there's been some tension, right? But to give these folks access to what's going on in your world helps them really feel like they're connected, right? And it kind of fulfills that expectation. For me, I learn a ton of stuff about what's going on in the organization in a pretty efficient way. I do site communications to all 400 people in Idaho and our other companies in LA and Denver every month. I talk to every single employee, but you're standing up in front of 100, 200 people. Most people are too uncomfortable to ask a real question in that environment, right? You can't afford to do this one-to-one with every employee, in my situation at least. But these groups of about 20 people, right? You set the tone, you make it nice and relaxed and start off with a joke or a story or whatever else. People open up and then they can jump in with all kinds of questions and feel like they've heard from the leader of the organization. The next concept's about branding. This is something I learned through a training course that I've taken and actually brought to every organization I've worked in the last 6 years, from Pathways for Leadership. It's a Veris Global program. I learned this program. I actually applied it to my family first, this concept of a brand, a team identity, right? And I thought about this. My kids at the time were 2 and 4 years old. And I went back home to them right after the training and I asked them a question. I said, what does it mean to be a Hughes? Right? And they're like, I don't know. What does it mean to be a Hughes? I said, it means 3 things. The Hugheses are famous for 3 things. I'm totally faking it. Totally. Right? We're famous for using our manners all the time in every situation. We're famous for always sharing our toys, our time with people that have less advantages than us. And we're famous for try and try again. We never give up, even if we fail, right? Even if we don't win, we're going to try harder next time, right? Totally made this up. If I had thought more about it, I probably would have made 6 things and expanded on this. But at the time, if you ask my kids now, they're 7 and 9, what does it mean to be a Hughes? They will rattle those things off, right? And when they misbehave, which they do, you're like, are you being a Hughes now? You're right, Dad, I didn't use my manners, or whatever it is, right? So they've built this identity in their head. They really believe this is what the Hughes is, God forbid, when they grow up a little bit older and see some of my behaviors. But it's a great branding thing, right? Now, I took that to the factory in Iowa, right? Here's a big factory, 60 years old, $2 billion worth of product going through it every year. And before I moved back there as a plant manager, I had heard, from not being working in the factory, I'd heard a lot of negative things about Iowa, about the factory in Iowa. I've heard, yes, they're capable. Yes, they got all the technology. They are a pain in the butt to work with. They resist every change we try and bring to them. A new project, a new initiative, a new piece of machinery, a new process, whatever it is. They think they know better. They fight everything we try to do. Sometimes we'll send stuff to China because they'll at least do it, and they'll just do what they're told, and off we go. We're off to the races, right? So our factory was losing business, right? Losing jobs and capacity because of this attitude. We were the resistors of change. So I did my Jedi mind trick that I did on my kids with the whole factory. After a couple of months there, I put up this slide, and I said, we are the champions of change. Again, totally faking it. We were the opposite of champions of change, right? I said, this is what we're going to be famous for. We got everybody uniforms that you had to wear every day from the plant manager on down, right? You saw it in one of those last pictures with the Champions of Change logo, huge banners hanging from the ceiling. Everywhere you went, from the tabletop triangle things to calling out, here's what a champion of change means, right? Taking on challenges, learning from everything, to seeing the positive side of stuff, all of these kind of things, right? And the space of about 1 year to 2 years, right? Now, it was on the bottom of people's emails, right? So it's hard to send an email back to whoever in headquarters or whatever else resisting change when the bottom of your email says, I'm a champion of change, right? So people genuinely changed, right? We started doing projects that we would have resisted for years and held up and whatnot. By the 3rd year, we did a record number of projects, 850 new products launched in our 3rd year there. People from Asia were sent to us to learn how to do change better, right? And it started from this branding of ourselves and our image and setting those expectations, setting that bar at a level that people could rise to and understand, oh, if I'm part of this team, I'm expected to be a champion of change, so the path of least resistance is to be a champion of change, okay? It's reapplicable in lots of situations, lots of size teams. The other cultural shift that you can enable in your organization, and we've done it here in Idaho, where we were kind of very focused on our internal metrics and our financials and whatever else. And teams will get excited about that in a very short period of time. It's hard to keep people sustained and empowered by that. Some of them could care less if the company makes more profit, right, off their hard-earned work. What people do care about is, what's the bigger picture here? What are we here for in our community, right? What are we going to make? Are we going to change people's lives in Idaho Falls, in Idaho, in the U.S., in the world, right? And we set a mission in our company that we're going to impact kids with a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, math program, where we're going to try and touch 1,000 kids a year and have them do a little science experiment that we created, where you make a little lotion, you put oil and water and an emulsifier in and shake it up and add some fragrance into that. You get some crazy mixtures of fragrances when you do this with kids. And they have made their own little skincare product that they bring home to their parents. And right, you ask kids at the end of that, who wants to be a chemist? You get to be a chemist, right? And work in Idaho Falls and invent new beauty care products, especially for the girls in the group. Like, this is a super exciting opportunity. Right? So this is one of our company missions now, is to have this impact on the community. And I'll tell you, the cultural impact internally, which wasn't the intention of doing this, the level of pride and ownership. And, we had an event at Melaleuca Field with 300 kids that came to that, and several other companies helped us host that. But the pride in our own employees that, hey, we're not just all about ourselves and the money, we're here to do something bigger for the community. So sharing that with people can have a pretty good cultural impact too. The last one is about, how do you get your mission and vision to everybody in the organization? One of the things I do when I visit a new site or a new organization, if we're doing an acquisition, or my P&G days going to a new plant, right? The plant manager, the leader, whoever it is, will tell you, here's what we're all about, here's our mission. First thing I'll do is go out to the floor and pick a random person and ask him, what is your mission? Right? If that happened in your company, what would happen? Would you get the exact same answer that you would have told the same person asking that question? Right? Next question I ask after that is, what are you personally doing to help drive that mission? Right? You can get lots of blank stares. Right? Half our job as leaders is to get the right people on the boat. Right? I like using this rowing analogy. And getting the people on the boat is one thing, right? The next thing is to get them all to actually pick up an oar and start rowing. Right? That can be a challenge. Now try and get them all rowing in the same direction. That's really a challenge in business when you got different departments and silos and whatnot. And then if you can get everybody rowing in the same direction at the same cadence and the oars are going in at the exact same time. I got to do 8-man rowing once. It is like you are on air. It's like it's like it's effortless. Everybody's flying, right? And if you can get your organization like that, you get the same exhilarating feeling, right? Everybody's moving in the same direction towards the same goal. Everyone understands the importance of each other player on the team, right? And everybody's in it together, right? So you got to start off with really understanding what your mission is. So for Elevation Labs, which is the parent company in Northwest Cosmetic Labs, our mission is pretty clear. We kept it relatively simple. This phenomenal customer experience every day. We need our employees highly engaged and empowered, right? And we want to have a positive, progressive impact on our community. Okay? Relatively memorable. We got the 3 C's coming out of that. We convert that into some strategies. I'm not going to go through all the strategies. And quite often, that's where it ends in many organizations, right? And maybe you can remember that, maybe you can't. Right? I think you're getting about 10% of the value of this process out of your people if you stop there. We go a little bit further. So for a department, if you're in the R&D department, right, what your expectations are now are to pick out what are the 5 rocks, we call this our 5 rocks program, what are the 5 important things that we can do to help deliver the company mission, right? So they'll pick out from all the different areas, here's what we can go do. And they'll develop against those 5 areas specific projects that they can deliver in the space of a year, right? This isn't come in and tie your shoelace projects or do your day job projects. These are game-changing projects, right? So for example, the R&D department's helping drive this STEM program we talked about, project to develop better quality formulas, et cetera, right? So then at the start of the year, they know exactly what they're responsible for, right? And we call it the 5 rocks. If you haven't seen the Stephen Covey YouTube video of Stephen Covey, 5 Rocks. Go have a look at that. It explains the concept of, quite often we get lost in the minutiae of our days. The emails, the little fires that we fight, right? And the big projects, the big improvement work we wanted to do, right? You ever drive in on a Monday morning and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you drive home on a Monday evening, or maybe the Friday evening, and you never got near that work, right? Has that ever happened to anybody? Right? The discipline in the 5 Rocks program is you work on the 5 rocks first, right? The minutia can fill in the gaps around that, right? And you'll see that concept on the video, right? It takes discipline to move to a 5 rocks mentality, right? The discipline has to start with me as the leader. So every single month I review with 14 departments in Idaho and all my departments in LA and Denver. It takes about 4 business days out of every month of my life to go and review with them how are they doing on their 5 rocks, these big projects. What barriers have they run into? How can I help? Is there another department holding them up that I can help influence? Right? Have they hit a record number and they get recognition for that? Right? We roll out some targets sometimes at the start of a year and never talk to the team again about those targets or how they're doing against it. You try and do that a year later and they could care less. Right? They'll wait you out on that thing. If you're going to show up every month and have a rigorous review of those 5 rocks and set up your reward program, your bonus program, whatever it is, against those 5 rocks, you can have a phenomenal outcome of engagement, right? If you go into the Idaho Falls facility and ask anyone here at this table, number 4, what your 5 rocks are, they'll all tell you what they're working on in 2018, and now they're getting ready for 2019. And then they'll know what that does to help the company deliver its mission overall, right? So the engagement, the memorability of it, and the accountability and the reward that goes with that creates this continuous momentum of progress and improvement. Just to wrap it up, I'll give you an example of what we did this last year, right? So, and using some of the tools that we talked about today. So here was our customer focus. And what I recognized when we went in, using the airplane model, we couldn't solve world hunger on the first year. We're not going to get everything done. And one of our worst performing results was on time in full. Are we getting the product to our customers on time? We ship about 300 and something different orders every single month. And we weren't getting them on time or the full quantity that they'd asked for. So we said, right, we're going to simplify. Everybody in the company is going to work on getting on time and full. Because if we can't get that to our products, to our customers on time, forget about all the other stuff, right? They're not going to give us more orders, right? So thinking about the blue-eye, brown-eye concept, we set a glide path. We started off about 50% of the time we were getting the orders perfect. The industry average is about 70%, by the way. And we set a glide path, right? We're not going to solve it in the first month. We're going to work our way through it, right? And step by step, with the genuine expectation that by the end of the year, we're going to be at 90%, right? Way above industry average for this particular industry. Okay, we did the 5 rocks program. Again, everybody had at least 1 rock or more based on how can they contribute, right? In the shipping department to get stuff shipped out on time, and the customer service department to get the orders in on time, how we can shave time off everything. We applied the carrot principle. We did some different kind of rewards, right? I don't believe if the company's going to win and succeed that every employee that contributes to that should see some of that win. We gave, if we hit the first 2 quarters, we gave away 2 paid holidays that typically you have to either be working or use a PTO out. They were not the most productive days in the world. We're like, hey, if we hit these numbers, we're going to give those away as holidays. In the last half of the year, if we hit those numbers, we're going to give away a cash bonus to every single employee in the company, right? So everyone's going to win the same way. How do we do? For the year, these are real numbers. As of today, for our October number, we're at 91%, right? So this is an example of, and I'll tell you, the people at the table here deserve a ton of recognition, but for me, it's an example of setting the bar at a place that's stretching and achievable, getting people engaged, trusting your people are going to get there, simplifying down what you're going after so you don't have to solve every single problem in the world in your first year, right? And I think, you know, this would have been considered miraculous where we were a year ago. We'd averaged 52% for 2 years, by the way, so this wasn't just a short-term problem, right? In a very complex beauty care industry where customers change their mind every 16 days. So, right? The other kind of part that goes along with this is this branding concept of Elevation Labs, right? And we came up with this new name for our parent company that has the 3 companies now, headquartered here in Idaho Falls. And the branding of elevation is, right, we're going to elevate our performance. We're going to elevate the customer's experience, right? I'll tell you, if you ask anyone on that team, whatever goal we're going to set ourselves for 2019, we're going to have that mountainside look of a challenge, and we're going to get to the top of that mountain together as a team. in a very focused way, right? So that's what the brand of being part of the Elevation Labs team means. We're going to rally together, we're going to work together, we're going to simplify down the work, get focused on it, and deliver excellence for our team and our customers. So, what's your move coming out of all this? I hope there's been one or two things that got on your drink stain napkin that you bring back to your place of work on Monday morning and assess what are we going to do differently, right? I thoroughly believe that if you apply your leadership heart, your passion to look after your people, to bring the team together, to have a really good culture, right? And a plan that you're rigorous and disciplined about, as rigorous as you are about your financial plan, your productivity plan. You put these two things together, the productivity and the finance stuff looks after itself. It's been my experience everywhere I've worked, and I'm seeing it play out again here in Idaho and Los Angeles and wherever else we work.